It's been 18 months since Octopus installed our heat pump. We've been through 2 winters, and if the skeptics were to be believed, we'd have frozen to death. Twice. Now, if you believe the comments, my neighbours would have been at my door with pitchforks and torches because of the noise that this thing makes. I still can't hear it. And apparently, my wife would have left me because, and I quote here, real men heat their homes with gas. Well, clearly something's gone right because I'm still here, I'm still on good terms with the neighbours, and the wife hasn't divorced me.
Well, I might divorce you if you buy any more batteries.
Yet. So let's head inside. Let me walk you through all of the numbers. I'll show you exactly what this thing cost me to run. I'll show you some of the changes that we made to the system, and we'll do a deep dive into the data as to exactly what this system has cost me to run and how much money it has saved me. Okay, so we're back in the office. What I'm going to do now is run you through all of my heat pump data. Now, I like to be as open as I possibly can about how all my systems perform, so I put it all online. So if you'd like to follow along, or maybe you're coming at this a few months later, you can always head over to my website, to jonathantracy.com. If you head up to the top menus here to data visualization, what you should see there is there's a menu, and you'll see the second one, a heat pump data, will take you to the heat pump dashboard. Now, the heat pump data only updates once a month, so you get the previous month. It is now the 1st of June. You can see we've got data loaded through to the end of May 2026, so from yesterday. So again, if you scroll down, what you'll see at the top of the dashboard are some just basic numbers. Now, the whole point of putting these numbers online is that I'm going to tell you the story of my heat pump now. But quite often when somebody tells you the story of how something's working, you get their interpretation of it. So I'm going to give you my interpretation of the numbers now, but when you go to look at them yourself, you can make up your own mind as to how the system is performing. So this is just my way of telling the story. So what you'll see on the top of the dashboard there are some basic boxes, the total input in kilowatt hours. So that is exactly how much energy have we put into the heat pump since we first installed it at the back end of 2024. So you can see there 4.4 megawatt hours roughly of energy gone in 18 months. And from that 4.4 megawatt hours of energy, or 4,483 kilowatt hours if you prefer, we've extracted 16,116 kilowatt hours of heat energy, and that's going into both heating the house and hot water. And then if you do a simple calculation, you take the 16,116 and you divide it by 4,483, you'll find we have a seasonal coefficient of performance of 3.59. That means for every unit of energy that we put in, we get an average of 3.59 units of energy out. So 359% efficient, as some people might use that. Underneath that, you'll see energy mix. Now, this is specific to me, to my house. We have a large battery system in which we import all of our energy, especially over winter, and store it in the batteries at cheap rate. And then we use it to run the heat pump during the day. But you can see here the mix across the entire period of owning this heat pump, 97.8% of that energy has come from off-peak electricity stored in our batteries. The ROI progress, we'll come back to ROI and whether it's going to pay for itself, but we've paid off approximately 30% of the cost of the heat pump based on savings that we've made from not having to buy gas. And the total running cost for the full 18 months, if we'd have bought that energy at off-peak rates, would have been £261.40. Now, we haven't spent anywhere near that. And the reason is that most of the energy that we've used for this has come directly from solar. And we'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, let's scroll down and take a look at the charts. So what you can see here, if you want to look at individual years, so 2024, there's not a lot of data. We only installed the heat pump at the back end of 2024, so we've got a little bit of data for there. We've got a full year for 2025. So what you'll see in the charts are some basic bar charts at the bottom here. So the dark orange color is our heating input. How much energy did we put into the system to get our heating for our house? And then the lighter orange is how much energy did we put in for hot water. So you can see there in January 2025, we put in about 500 kilowatt hours for heating. We put in about 144 kilowatt hours for hot water. And that gave us a total output of 2019 kilowatt hours of heat for both heating and hot water. So that's the blue line that you can see there. So you can see the blue line sits way above those bars, and that's because of that seasonal coefficient of performance, that 3.4 times what we put in, what we get out. So again, this can show you year by year, and if we drop into 2026, you'll see we've got the first 5 months of 2026 there. Again, you can see the bars decrease as we head into the summer. Obviously, we're not heating the house as much as we go into the summer, so therefore the amount of heat that we produce comes down as well. But that line is always way above the bar charts, and that's because of that coefficient of performance. Now, if we want to look at the individual efficiencies, again, let's drop back to 2025 for a second, just so you can see the whole year. What we actually give you here is the coefficient of performance across the whole year. So the seasonal coefficient of performance is the orange line. The heating coefficient of performance. Now, you'll see it stops there in April and it starts again there in September. That's because during 2025, the summer, it was boiling hot. We didn't use any heating, so therefore there is no data for that. And then the green line that you see under there is the hot water coefficient of performance. So again, if you want to see how the two differ, then follow those two lines. If we go to the solar tab, now this is where we can see how much of the energy did we generate ourselves, both solar and in the winter, obviously, when we didn't have enough solar, we pulled from the batteries, and how much did we have to pull from the grid? And this is one of the questions that comes up all of the time is my battery big enough to run my heat pump? Well, we have quite a large battery system. We have about 27 kilowatts on our SolarEdge system, and we have about a further 12 kilowatts of EcoFlow batteries. And in that particular January, we still had to pull some energy from the grid to run the heat pump. That wasn't a huge amount, but we pulled in about 5%, which actually it looks like we pulled in about 12%. And that's because we had some really cold days where we basically exhausted the battery. But for the rest of the year, the whole year, it all came from either solar or cheap rate energy stored in the batteries. Now, this is the one where I like to see it because this validates my decision to get a heat pump. So what you can see here, the grey bars are the cost if we'd have produced that same quantity of heat. So like for like, heating the house, heating the hot water in the same way, what it would have cost in gas, what it would have cost for the heat pump. So in my case, to run the heat pump in January 2025 would have cost me £154.76. It actually cost me £19.77 to buy that energy, store it in the batteries, and run the heat pump from there. And again, we'll drop into 2026, and you'll see there the gas price goes down, and that's because, again, as we get further and further towards the summer, we're using less and less energy to heat the house because the house is staying nice and warm, and our costs are staying roughly the same. And that's because it's coming out of the batteries, whether we generate it ourselves or we store it in the batteries. We're measuring that as the same. Comfort-wise, and now this is one of my favorite graphs because, as you saw in the intro, everyone said you're going to freeze. When it gets to the winter, you're going to absolutely freeze because heat pumps don't work in the cold. Well, let's look at the whole of 2025. You can see if we look at the 1st of January, our house was at 21.6 degrees. And it stayed absolutely consistent until we got into around about May when it peaked up. And at this point, we're not heating it. This is residual heat because it was such a hot summer. And again, once we started having the heating come back on around about October, we dropped back into that 21 degrees. Now you'll see that we have a maximum, a minimum, and an average temperature. And that's because people open doors, people open windows. At night, we let the heat in the house drop down a little bit to make it a little more comfortable to sleep. but it has stayed consistent throughout the whole year. And as we go into 2026, it has stayed consistent again. And again, just in the last couple of weeks, as everyone in the UK knows, we've had a very warm couple of weeks. You'll see the house temperature has shot up above that average temperature. But we've stayed at an average of about 20 to 21 degrees the whole year. Then the last chart here is the ROI. So what you'll see in the ROIs is as we go into the summer months, it flattens off because we're not saving as much money because we wouldn't have been heating the house using gas anyway. But right now, we've paid back about £1,194 of our initial investment. Our total cost for our heat pump was £3,940. That is after the bus grant. We never got to see that. That was all dealt with by Octopus. But to get a new gas boiler would have cost me £3,700. So the heat pump cost me £240 more than putting a gas boiler in, and look at the savings. And this is why I say, if you're thinking about putting a heat pump in, don't just look at random people like me on the internet when they say we're making great savings. The reason I'm able to make these savings is because of solar and batteries. So heat pumps, solar and batteries go together to make the wombo combo, as some of the gamers call it. It allows me to have almost consistent running costs. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is, it costs me the same amount of money. If I was buying all of that energy from the grid, it would cost me about £20 a month to heat my house and to heat my hot water. And based on that, we'd actually have a payback period of about 3 to 3.5 years, depending on how much energy we use. So that's my heat pump data. Now, I've gone through it very quickly because I don't want to sit here and bore you with a full analysis. The charts are all online. You're more than welcome to go look at them, dig through them. If you have any questions, then hit me up in the comments below. Now, as I say, we've been through 2 full winters with this system, and we have had no problems whatsoever. The heating has never gone off. It has never failed to work. It has been completely consistent. It has had 1 yearly service. So we pay for Octopus's service plan. That's £9 a month. And for £9 a month, obviously they're on call. It's within a 24-hour turnaround. But also once a year, they come and service the heat pump. So they've been out once. They've done the basic service, found no issues with it. And I'll expect to see them again sometime around about November, December this year. But the only change we've made to the heat pump to get a little bit more efficiency out of it is we've adjusted the way the hot water heats. So the way we had it set up for almost the first year of ownership was that once the water in the tank dropped below about 40 degrees, then the heat pump would kick in and it would reheat the hot water to push it back up to about 47 degrees is where we keep it. Now, what we've done is we've just turned that down a little bit because what we found was we weren't using enough water out of the tank when we have our morning or evening showers that it required it to, or we don't really need it to heat back up again that quickly. So what we've done is we've turned that down now to about 33 degrees. So once it goes below 33 degrees in the tank, then the heat pump will kick in and it will heat the hot water back up. And then again, about every 3 to 4 weeks, we run a boost cycle, which just basically heats the whole tank to 67 degrees, lets it sit there overnight, just in case there's any nasties, Legionella, that kind of thing starting to grow in the tank. We'll kill all of those off. And that's it. We haven't had to monitor this thing, to nanny it, I've even kind of stopped looking at the app, to be totally honest. It just works. And there is really nothing that I can say that would put me off. If I was to make this decision again today, I would do exactly the same thing. And people always say, well, now would you choose the Octopus heat pump now that they've had them for a long time, or would you still go with the Daikin? And to be totally honest, the Daikin has been flawless. Now, I'm sure the Octopus heat pumps are great, but based on what I know now, I would buy another Daikin heat pump tomorrow. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope this is interesting. As I say, all the data is online. The heat pump data only updates once a month. All the solar generation data and all the other dashboards, they actually update daily. If you're interested in those, just go to the data visualization menu. You'll find all that online. If you've got any questions, then do hit me up in the comments below. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.